Getting your team to take ownership is one of the biggest challenges that faces leaders today. It is also one of the best ways to achieve peak performance, to increase retention, and make your team just happy. But yet, so many leaders struggle with this today. Well, today I'm going to talk about one military tradition and how I'm using it to increase ownership within my organization. Are you ready for this? All right, let's do it. Welcome one, welcome all to the Peak Performance Leadership Podcast, a weekly podcast series dedicated to helping you hit peak performance across the three domains of leadership. Those being leading yourself, leading your team, and leading your organization. This podcast couples my 20 years of military experience as a senior Canadian Army officer with world-class guests to bring you the most complete podcast on leadership going. And for more, feel free to check out our website at movingforwardleadership.com. And with that, let's get to the show. Yes, welcome one, welcome all. It is your Chief Leadership Officer, Scott McCarthy, and thanks for tuning into today's podcast where we're going to be talking about how you can try to increase ownership amongst your team into your organization. And this is such an important topic because, as I said in the intro, it is one of the best ways to achieve peak performance with your team and within your organization. It is definitely effective. There are so many examples of organizations out there who went down the ownership route and achieved great things. And for the longest time, I will tell you, like, the first company that comes to my mind when I think ownership is actually a Canadian airline, believe it or not, and that is the airline called WestJet. So just to give you an idea, the Canadian airline space for a long time and still remains to be very competitive. I mean, it is almost impossible in Canada, based on the way the rules and the laws are and so on and so forth, and just the barriers to entry. It is very difficult for new airlines to really set up in Canada. But WestJet was able to do it, and they are now easily the de facto number 2, arguably number 1 airline in the country. Okay, and they've been there for quite some time. And there are many, many reasons. They did so many great things out of the beginning, like scaling with purpose, keeping a unified fleet to keep costs down. So many of these great quote-unquote managerial type decisions that enabled them to stay lean, keep costs down, yet be effective in providing their service to the people of Canada. But they did one thing in particular from a leadership standpoint that enabled them to expand and get a foothold and really grow. And that is, they instilled ownership within their team. And how did they do that? Well, they made them owners too. They provided stock and shares to all of the permanent and indeterminate employees. They were invested in the company's success because that in turn enabled them to achieve more things. Now, that is just one example of how you can turn around and instill ownership within your organization. But, not every company out there can do that. Not everybody has stock options or, you as a leader, you probably don't even have access to that kind of asset. Everyone has the ability to, issue stock options. So how do we, the day-to-day normal leaders, actually instill ownership within our teams? How do we do that? It's tough. Don't get me wrong. It is tough. Ownership is by far one of the most difficult things to do. And now I'm going to talk about a military tradition that we do and how I'm using it as a part of ownership. Now, if you're new to the podcast, first off, welcome. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Now, you're probably wondering, hey, who are you? I am Scott McCarthy. By day, I am a senior Canadian Army officer who is currently the commanding officer of the 25 Canadian Forces Supply Depot out of Montreal, Quebec. Okay? Within that organization, I am responsible for 185 folks and well over $4 billion worth of equipment. It is a challenge. And it is a challenge to get people to instill ownership. Ownership in our day-to-day operations, ownership in our outcomes, ownership in every aspect of what we do. But I've been leveraging two things to help with this ownership battle. And the first is there's a tradition in the military that we refer to as the coin tradition. Now, won't take any credit for the coin tradition. It's been around for a long time. It's actually, from my understanding, comes from the U.S. Army, where a base commander or brigade commander used to give out coins to invite people to a monthly barbecue, and that was your ticket to get in. That has now since been morphed into a way to say thanks and to recognize people for their efforts and the work that they've done. So you're wondering, how does this tie into ownership? Well, the second part of this is that I've been telling my team that this is their unit, which is a very much a 180 perspective from a military context. Everyone looks at the commanding officer as the person who is in charge of the unit. It is their unit. They run it as they see fit. They're responsible for everything. The CO this, the CO that, the CO. Now, that's great, and in some contexts, it makes sense. Don't get me wrong. I have to take ownership of my responsibilities and not just slough them off onto someone else. But the other side of the dagger is that we know when I'm leaving. You see, us military leaders, we change out roles every 2 to 3 years. And in this case, it is 2 years. So I can pretty much pull up a calendar right now, and maybe I will as I'm talking, and I'll tell you that roughly when I will be changing out. And that is going to be in 2026. Let's pick June. I'm thinking late June, so either the 18th or 25th of June is most likely of 2026 when I will be leaving this job. So how is it my unit? Sure, it's my unit for the 2 years, but it's not my unit after that day. It's the next CO's unit. And so with that, I have to actually manage my expectations and understand that it's not actually my unit. Why? Because I have people who have been in the unit, civilian employees who've been there longer than I've been in the Army, and some longer than I've been alive. So it's their unit. They're the ones who get to decide the culture and how it's going to be, if it's going to be a high-performing culture or not, because I can show up and I can preach rah, rah, rah for 2 years, and then everything can change right after. But the constant is the members who are there over the long haul. So it's their unit. Now, let's tie these two things together. So on the coin that I present as thank yous and well dones and attaboys and attagirls, it is written on the back side, c'est votre unité, or it's your unit. I'm telling my people this every opportunity I get. It's their unit. They get to decide how we're going to operate, because I can't go and grab the equipment, prep it for shipment, everything that's needed, bring things on charge, write things off, yada, yada, yada. They're the ones who do that. They do it on my behalf. So it's their unit. And this is the mentality that I'm pushing hard for people to understand and for them to take a little bit of ownership of their unit. Is it a quick Band-Aid fix? God, no. And let me tell you, it is taking time for people to understand what I mean by that and to believe me when I say it. But I'm saying it and it's coming around. So when you think about how you can instill ownership within your team, think about how you can make it their unit. And sure, you might not be the overall in charge. You might not be the CEO or commandant of whatever you're working out of. But how can you instill that it's your whatever within your team? So just a quick example of how you might do that. Let's say you're a regional sales manager and you have like 5 local sales managers under you with teams. They're all in different parts of the country, state, province, what have you. Okay? Just bear with me. But they're all going to be different. Right? Where I'm from, like Canada, my God, like each province is completely different. You go from one side to the other side of the country and it's night and day. So what works in one space won't work in the other. So this is where you can go ahead and say, hey, it's your area, it's your region, it's your whatever. Yep, I'm going to push down some direction to you. I'm going to give you some guidance. I'm going to tell you some things that are offside, but you know what? Take these things and apply it, adapt it to your local area and run with it as you need to. Hey, maybe your people in your area don't like cold calls during the workday, and for whatever crazy reason they like them in the evenings. All right, shift your team's schedule. Maybe one product line isn't that, hot, but another one is. Push hard for that product line that is hot. Enable your local people to take ownership and maybe, get to know their clients deeply and to know them. Almost befriend them. You see, these are how you make it's your unit. You enable them to be a part of the decision-making process on how they're going to execute based on the desired end state that you have. So think about that moving forward. And, there's plenty of things that I can't do. But I can enable my team to take ownership of what it is that we can do to enable the organization to move forward. So, that is a way that I am using a military tradition with a little bit of leadership insight to instill ownership within your team. And that is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. And just a final quick wrap-up point. If you're not sure how you're doing, we talk about the 3 domains of leadership here at the Peak Performance Leadership Podcast. And those 3 domains are leading yourself, leading your team, and leading your organization. And you're like, I'm not too sure how I'm doing. I have a great tool for you to find out. And that is my assessment scorecard. Is just a quick 20 quick questions. Go through it. It'll take you less than 5 minutes guaranteed, and you will get a personalized report on how you're doing, where you need to improve, and how you can improve. No strings attached. Just go to leaddon'tboss.com/assessment, and you'll be taken there, fill in your email address, and away you go. So go check it out. Lose those blind spots, figure out where you're doing well, figure out where you can improve, and most importantly, how to improve across those 3 domains. Again, that is leaddon'tboss.com/assessment. Love you as always. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, Lead Don't Boss. Take care now. And that's a wrap for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the Peak Performance Leadership Podcast. But you know what you could do to truly support the podcast? And no, that's not leaving a rating and review. It's simply helping a friend. And that is helping a friend by sharing this episode with them if you think this would resonate with them and help them elevate their performance level, whether that's within themselves, their teams, or their organization. So do that. Help me, help a friend, win-win all around. And hey, you look like a great friend at the same time. So just hit that little share button on your app, and then feel free to fire this episode to anyone that you feel would benefit from it. Finally, there's always more. There's always more lessons around being the highest performing leader that you can possibly be, whether that's for yourself, your team, or your organization. So why don't you subscribe? Subscribe to the show via movingforwardleadership.com/subscribe. And until next time, lead, don't boss, and thanks for coming out. Take care now.